Welcome to the Get Smart with Money podcast. I'm your host, Dana Hernandez, financial planner and author of Get Smart with Money, Break Free from the Struggle, Build Wealth on Your Terms, and Rewrite Your Money Story. Here we talk about money, entrepreneurship, growth, and resilience, because financial freedom is about more than just numbers. Each week, you'll get practical strategies, inspiring stories, and the motivation you need to stress less about money and create more freedom in your life. Let's get smart with money together. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm here with Cynthia Peña. She hosts the Healthy Hotgirl Podcast. She is also a coach and a consultant. Welcome, Cynthia. Thank you for being here today. I hope you've been well since we last spoke.
Thanks. I am doing really well, actually. How are you?
I've been really good. Really busy.
Yes.
Yeah. So, the audience doesn't really know who you are yet. I know you have a couple episodes that have been released, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, please tell us about yourself and where you're from and everything.
I am from Holland, Michigan originally, which is West Michigan, and I was born and raised there. I went to college in Kalamazoo, and I moved away for a little bit, lived in Austin, Texas for a year, and now I'm back in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is still West Michigan. And my background is primarily in human resources consulting, so with a big focus on the people side of things and supporting businesses, creating their HR structures. And for me lately, it's been learning more about the diversity, equity, and inclusion side of HR and building that in, as well as coaching. So I have been working on health healing and happiness-based coaching. So, what does being healthy look like for you? The full spectrum of, holistic health and mental, physical, and spiritual health, and how that allows you to show up better and brighter in the world, as well as love yourself and be able to be your authentic self. And for me, with the HR consulting and the coaching, I think there's a big focus on inclusion and belonging and being able to feel comfortable and to feel safe enough to show up as your authentic self and to be seen. And so that's been primarily my journey most recently. And the Healthy Hotgirl Podcast, we talk about all of the things related to health, healing, and happiness, and the full spectrum of what that can mean. And that's a lot of different things, because we're multidimensional human beings and we have so many different aspects of us, from our sexuality to our career, to our family life, to, our hobbies and our interests, to, the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves, to, the parts that we allow other people to see. So, really just, trying to create a space and for people to really show up and understand themselves. And so they can learn to dance with the darkness so that they are able to shine their light in the world.
Wow. That was awesome. I really like that.
Thanks.
You mentioned hobbies. What are your hobbies?
Well, my hobbies lately, I feel like, have been all based around personal development, but I feel like it's around working out. So I have a lot of fitness goals, and I spend a lot of time in the gym. I've been really trying to focus on lifting heavier and sculpting my body and leaning out and eating healthy. And so that's a big part of my life. And the other part of that is honestly just, learning more about, spirituality and my personal holistic whole being. And so that takes up a lot of my time. And then around that as well, I do love to dance. I do love to go to like EDM shows and different raves in my free time. I love music, so I love listening to music. I love dancing to music. So I'll take a dance class here and there, just depending. And I think just deep, meaningful connections, creating deep, meaningful connections with other women. I love, just being able to connect with other women and, what are we going through and how are we needing support? And like, let's laugh about the dumb shit and like, let's help each other brainstorm, through our problems and find out solutions. And I honestly am such a learner. Like I'm obsessed with personal development. I'm obsessed with, anything that I hear and I'm like, that's interesting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like I would love to learn more about that. So I feel like that's a lot of my time is just, dipping into these little different things, different aspects of things I'm hearing or learning about.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you do this because women kind of tend to tear each other down, and we have to flip that around. And so we all support each other because we're all women. We all feel the same things. Generally, we're very emotional people, So it's very important to lift each other up instead of tearing each other down.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I'm curious, and I like to ask people this question. So what are 3 words you would use to describe yourself?
Determined, resilient, and healthy.
Ooh, I would definitely say that I am resilient as well with everything that I've been through. So right on.
Love that.
Yeah.
Resilience is, I think, one of the most important qualities that we need to have as human beings. And especially on this journey, like the journey of entrepreneurship and the journey of life, it's, I don't know where we stumbled upon this like idea of like, I'll be happy when in society, but life is constantly peaks and valleys and we constantly fail and sometimes we fail into success and that's the best way that we learn. And, it's so easy to, be hard on ourselves and be hard on other people. But, being resilient and getting back up and understanding, what happened and, utilizing that to be better people, to be better women, to be better businesses. It's really important.
Yeah. And I think one of the key things to being more resilient is just having a stronger, healthier mindset and having actual goals that you want to achieve. That's definitely helped me in life. And I've seen, people that don't have such a strong mindset and who don't really have any goals and they just kind of keep going to work and coming home and doing that cycle. And they just kind of crumble when things happen that are out of the ordinary. When adversities happen, they just kind of like fall and then they call out of work and things like that. They kind of let it control their life. So I think mindset and having personal goals and stuff are definitely 2 key factors in being more resilient. So when we spoke before, you told me that your mom raised you to be more independent financially earlier on. So what did she do exactly, and how has that helped you into adult life?
Yeah, well, my mom was one of 11 children and she was born in the Valley in Texas. And I know that her parents weren't really present, but out of all of her siblings, I would say that she is probably one of the most financially responsible. And I don't know, maybe it came from her having to create a life for me and raise me, but she just always taught me, I think around spending, right? Like making the most with the money that we had and working hard for it and, having a list. Like for me, it was like having a list of chores to earn allowance every week. And if I wanted something, I had to work for it. And even when I got a car, like I had to pay my insurance and I had to pay my gas and I had to get a job when I was 14. And I remember thinking about going to college, and her just kind of talking me through, at least like what the debt process was. And like, I mean, this actually part is not a good part, but she was like, everyone's in debt, go to college and take out a loan and it's fine. But the other part of that was like, with credit cards, like, hey, you need to, right when I turned, I don't even know if I was 17 or 18 yet, but right when I turned, around that time, like I had graduated high school, and she was like, you need to build your credit, and you need to get, go to your bank and you open a $500, credit card, or they'll give you the prepaid one. And then you just, you pay off your expenses. You only use it for emergencies, and just like those kind of little things, and just little things about, lending money, if you're lending money out, always be okay with not getting that money back, just in case. And I think, maybe like on the other side of that, it was more really about hard work, about working hard. And I think the appreciation of working really hard to get what I wanted. And I think that was more of what she taught me. And I think just, to be independent, like I had to be independent. I was out when I was 18, and, had my own car. Everything was in my name. My credit cards were in my name. My student loans were in my name. And I think, it's kind of like pushed out the nest a little bit, and it was like, sink or swim type of thing. And I think just growing up, I always was a hard worker. I always had to help out with my siblings. I had to help my mom. I, had to get a job to have the things that I wanted to, because, we didn't have a lot of money. And yeah, I think that just taught me to work really hard for what I want.
Yeah, it sounds like it. She definitely taught you a lot of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, for me, it was a little bit different. Definitely was not brought up like that, but kind of wish that I had been, because I can see that you obviously would be a little more smarter with credit cards and things like that, and everything being in your name. That's just like an automatic like responsibility feeling, So yeah, I didn't really have many things in my name yet by like 17, 18, but
yeah. And I remember her like saying, no, like I will not co-sign for you for these things. And I think my dad might have helped me with like one loan in college. And I think, eventually like I had built enough credit where I didn't really need those things, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it is really important to start teaching your kids earlier on about finance and stuff and mindset, because it's just going to help them get set up earlier than their friends. They're going to start thinking about all that a lot sooner. It's just going to help them in the long run.
Yeah, it's crazy because I don't know if you and I had this conversation, but I definitely had this conversation with other people. It's like, what are we even teaching kids these days? Like, we really need to be teaching them, mindfulness and like open-mindedness, and, to accept other people and to be kind, and, what financial health looks like, and how to mentally and physically and spiritually take care of yourself, and like these things before we start, sending them to college to, get $100,000 in debt for a career they might not even love or might not even get. Like, it's just crazy. Society is a little crazy for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Sometime in the future with this podcast and stuff, I want to create some sort of community where maybe parents come and they just basically commit to teaching their kids about all that stuff, because exactly what are they teaching these days? And if we can't get this stuff implemented in the schools, I want to create something where all these parents are going to come together and commit to teaching their kids that way. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Because, things are caught, not taught. And it's very important because, kids are watching all the time. Kids are watching you. So you need to be doing things that are showing them the best example that you can.
Yeah, I think there's there's an art to, loving your kids and, wanting them to have a warm upbringing, but also, sprinkling in those life lessons and that art of appreciation and just a good set of values.
Yeah, for sure. Here's another question that I like to ask people. Not related to that, but I mean, financially, a lot of people had issues. So what was the biggest change or challenge that you went through during the pandemic?
Yeah. So with the pandemic, I mean, job wise, honestly, the pandemic was a blessing. I was ready to leave my job and, they did a bunch of layoffs and I was one of them. And so that was amazing for me. I loved that. And I spent that whole time like studying for a certification, and moving forward. And so that was awesome. But I think it was just an awakening. Now that I think about it, that time I started doing, I started working out at home. I mean, I always worked out, but I started doing yoga. So I started doing 10 minutes of yoga every day that I've been doing since COVID. So since 2020, which I think just that practice like has been something that has been an unexpected like staple that I didn't really try to have happen within my life. And I think just an overall, just an awakening of, what I wanted. And I started moving in a new direction. So I would say just an awakening.
Yeah, for sure. It was a definite blessing for a lot of people, but terrible for other people. So it's just crazy how everyone is so different in that way, especially for the pandemic.
I think for me, I really am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And, it doesn't feel good. Like I have been laid off from a job and I've been fired from a job. And I think both of those jobs I needed to go. And both of those jobs, honestly, on the financial side, like,
Please like, review, share, and subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Instagram at GetSmartWMoneyPodcast, as well as checking out our website at GetSmartWithMoneyPodcast.com.